Good morning. Rookies came in yesterday for our meeting. We had a nice team meeting yesterday. They all reported. And then this morning, we had another team meeting to start the day. I had Peanut Tillman come in and speak to him. I think it's a great message. What a great story. What a great bear. And obviously we all know the career he had, and he can implement some wisdom onto those guys. And really excited to have him in the building. Always great to see him. So that was cool. And then they broke off to position meetings and walkthroughs, and they're doing that right now, getting ready for our first practice. First practice will be, we're in helmets today, so it'll be good to see the guys move around, got a long individual. I think that's going to be nice to be able to evaluate not only our draft picks, but the free agents and also the tryout guys. So we got a good group out there at all positions. So I'll be roaming around, checking out the skill sets and looking at those guys before we get to the team periods. And we got about 3 or 4 team periods today as well. So that'll be nice to be able to evaluate those guys. Last night, and we're always evaluating in the classroom too. The coaches. We ask a lot of questions to those players to see where they are in terms of their initial baseline of their FBI, their football intelligence, and then how much they can retain. That's a big part of our coaching style and the way we teach and the way we be able to see and evaluate that FBI, and those guys are doing a good job of that so far. With that, I'll open up to questions.
Matt, any changes or anything you learned from last year's rookie minicamp? First one as a head coach that you implemented, or any differences this year? Yeah,
a little bit. When you're doing this with helmets on, it's a phase 3. We're going to do a thing that we've called before in the past called, it's a special category, meaning that we're going to run emphasis and it's going to be more of a jog through type of tempo. We have enough people today to split the fields. So the so-called ones will be on one field and the twos will be on another field, and we'll get our run fits and our run schemes and how we're blocking force. That'll be something that's new. A little bit longer 7-on-7. That'll be a little bit different. But other than that, it'll be the same.
Back in the day, they never had rookie minicamps. Everybody just came in and started working together. How valuable do you think it is for these guys in terms of getting their feet wet and before they start joining their veterans?
Yeah, it's really big. Just to retain the information. How we do things, what we call things. They're learning a new language. So it's important that what we call protections, what we call schemes on defense. So it's going to be a big part of what they do, and it gives them a good foundation. I know the guys have met with them before, when they're quizzing them on Zoom during the draft period and all those types of things, but it gives them a good baseline. They have to go home, though. They have to go home for a week after this and then come back, re-enter in phase 2 with our veterans, so that's going to be a big part of them when they do go home to be able to study, and really ask good questions, with the coaches and making sure they're on the same page.
How do you kind of navigate that rookie energy that they naturally have in this moment, but also making sure you get that baseline set so they understand the standard here?
Yeah, I think it's, obviously they're very juiced up, which is great. You say, ask them a question and they all say, yes, sir. You don't usually get that with the veterans, but yeah, you have to navigate that a little bit. I want them to stay on their feet, in terms of the physical part. Stay on their feet, no big collisions, making sure we're doing it the right way. And then really mentally, just to slow down, really retain the information. And that's up to the coaches, to paint a good picture for those guys to be able to retain that information. But they're doing okay there so far.
Coach, understand what the vision is for Darnell Wright. What do you hope this next stretch of 6 or 7 weeks is for him in terms of getting him on the runway to what you want him to be?
Yeah, just learning our style. He's close to where we want him to be in terms of the style. We just got to get him to here. And then be able to retain the information and execute on the field. I think he's in a good spot. He retains information very well. Obviously, his movement skills and athleticism are going to be, on point. But we're going to have to really harness him in there and how he uses his body. And understanding that it's going to be a little bit different every single week because you're going to be blocking different types of pass rushers. So he's got to learn his game, learn what works for him, and that's a process. It takes time to be able to do that.
Look at where you chose to add depth at cornerback, running back, and wide receiver. What's the message to guys like Kendall Vildor, Bayless Jones, Treston Ebner, as you bring those new guys in? The outside perception is that these young guys are here to take their spots.
Yeah, we believe in all those guys that are currently on our roster, or they wouldn't be here. So those guys are all going to compete, and obviously we believe in the guys we drafted. So when you start to increase your talent on your roster, the competition gets, better and gets more. And I think it's a healthy thing. And this NFL is all about competition. It's all about, hey, we're trying to get these spots, and you got to compete for that spot. And that's a message Peanut Tillman talked about today. You got to be a fiery competitor to be able to stay in this league and to get in one of these seats. And that was a great message by him.
Are they starting the evening, or are the younger guys a step behind? Are they starting the evening, or the young guys a step behind?
Yeah, they are. They are a little bit behind because they don't have the information. The older guys have the schemes. They understand how we want things done. They've been through it before, so they have the experience piece. So they do have to catch up, but we also understand that going in it when we evaluate it.
Matt, after having had a year to implement your scheme and finding players and seeing what works and what doesn't, to what extent is it easier or more efficient acquiring players for this defense with regard to free agency, the draft, undrafted guys, especially with guys like Pickens, just your defensive tackles, Bell, those guys, and just in general, is it easier to find guys for this defense now than a year ago?
I think that, when you have a year under your belt, Ryan and I have a year under our belt, we got a chance to evaluate the roster, where it was, and then what we did to the roster going into free agency, and then building it back up through free agency, and now building up another year of the draft. I think it's we're more in line just because of the year and experience together, but we had a lot of pieces to fill, and I think that it was very, very cool that it was the second year because we got a chance to lay the culture. And it just happened to be that way, right? But and we worked it out through the free agency and the draft, and it was exciting. But to answer your question, with in terms of we're right on point with who we want to add and how we want the players and what they look like, and what they do skill set wise.
So when you got a guy like Dexter, I mean, you have a better idea just how well he will fit in this. Is there just a higher chance of success, I guess?
Yeah, I would say that.
You know exactly what you're
Yeah, I would say. Yeah, I would say that.
Matt, you brought in Page, the D2 quarterback.
Yep.
How can you tell in advance whether something that was successful at D2 can translate to the NFL?
Yeah, it's difficult at times. That's why we bring him here, right? We see him operate, we see what he does, in the walkthrough, see what he does in the individual and then in team periods, and really just evaluate the guy. We really don't care where they're from now. They're here. It doesn't matter to us if they're a tryout guy or a guy that we signed, through undrafted free agent. That doesn't matter.
To have success at that level, to have tremendous success at that level, does that speak well to him?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Sure. In terms of competitor, in terms of figuring things out, to be a high competitor at any level, you got to figure it out. You got to be able to execute at a high level. It doesn't matter because it's all level. Now, can he make the jump to come to the pros? That's what we're going to see.
Well, your veterans have been training to play football in the offseason. A lot of these rookies have been training to get drafted, which can be quite different, winning their combine, winning their pro day. How much of an emphasis is it to the staff once they get into the building to kind of flip that and get back into football shape?
Yeah, it's the definite difference. There's a definite difference there. With the combine stuff, and it's different because it's it's stop, it's go and then stop, go and then stop, and then it's important those guys will do that. And our standards will take care of that. Our standards, the way we practice, and these guys will be flying around today, but our standards will take care of the guys being in shape and guys being in football shape.
And yeah, Ryan talked about how much he liked Travis Bell, just liked the person.
Yep.
He interviewed. Do you have a guy like that in this bunch of rookies that you just really got to like, who you singled out?
Yeah, I mean, Travis is one of them. I was out of town. I had to go to a funeral when he was on his 30th visit. But what I did do was I Zoomed him afterward. And, man, what a fantastic young man. I'm really, optimistic about him and really enthused by him being here. And he would be the same guy for me because he's a guy you really like to like.
Matt, this is the second year in a row you've brought Peanut Tillman to come talk to your guys. What is it about Peanut that, made you want to invite him back to speak to the team?
Yeah, just this is his message, about being a pro, about what it takes. It's not going to be easy. You got to handle hard better. You're going to have to go through adversity. But it's the guys that persevere that make the difference. And he talks about preparation and the passion, and the perseverance that it takes to be a pro. And just outstanding. And it means a lot when it's coming from him, because, he's a special guy.
What are you looking for from your new defensive tackles as they're getting going now?
Well, it's important. I want to see movement. I want to see get off. I want to see disruption. We'll be able to see that, the athleticism. Being a good D tackle, and we've had some good ones, it's the ability to stay on your feet and stay alive in the play. And obviously pass rush up the middle is going to be important to be able to evaluate that during the drills today and what we're doing. But, that's when you have a dominating force inside of there, or if you have two really good players in there, that really helps you in a lot of ways. It helps you in your run defense. It helps you in your pass rush right up the middle there. So we're enthused by having those guys in here.
In your off-season meetings with Luke Getzey about the offense, what are some of the priorities that you guys have attacked to correct and change going into this season?
Yeah, just the rhythm and timing of it, of the passing game. Obviously, the priority is the passing game. We ran the ball very well, but we all know that we got to improve in the passing game. And part of that's rhythm and timing. That's the footwork with Justin. He's been really working on that really, really good, in terms of the quick pass, drop back pass, movement passes. And he's really made some big strides in that area coming so far on his own, and then now coming into the phase 2 that first week. And really that's about it. And then obviously acquiring the athletes that we have, with DJ and Bobby and the different guys that we're going to acquire. We're certainly enthused about those guys, adding that talent piece to our offense.
How do you think that personnel changes at wide receiver will affect things? And I'm including Claypool in that because now he'll have a full offseason. You would assume that will be a different player than you had last year.
Right. Yeah. I mean, just optimistic. Really optimistic about it. Looking forward to getting them together. Right now we're doing routes on air and stuff in the phase 2, so it's pretty cool to see those guys, throw and catch together. But we'll see when we start playing against defenses and all that. But when you just add athletes, the guys that can catch the ball well, that can create mismatch problems with Claypool and Bobby and the guy and DJ and all those guys that we have, it's only going to be better.
Two more. When did you first start learning about Roshan Johnson over the last few months? And kind of what was your process of hearing all the feedback that you're getting from around you here about who he is?
Yeah, it's cool to find out about the guy, so what he means and what he does in terms of his work ethic, what he was able to do there and stay the course. He stayed the course, he stayed who he was and kept working and did a lot of different things, for those guys. And I would just say that he's a guy that perseveres, and you're not gonna be able to shake him. He's going to take competition and thrive in that competition rather than back away from it. He wants to be able to. And another thing that Peanut Tillman said: seek criticism, because criticism helps you become a better player. And I certainly believe that he does that.
Matt, last week,
Last
Trey
one.
Koziel talked to us about Tyreek and Terrell and kind of.
Who was that who talked?
Trey Koziel.
Okay.
And it was last Saturday. We were just talking about how they have similar height, weight, physical skill sets, and he said that they don't have to be perfect, but they can still be right if you're drafting upon those sorts of traits. How does that translate then, when you might have the high ceiling, high projection type of players in that?
Yeah, I think what he's referring to is length and speed, because you don't have to always be right, because those things make up for a lot of things. When the ball's in the air, you can make up space with your speed. And then in terms of the catch point and busting up the triangle where the offensive player's trying to catch the ball, your length will help you to be able to disrupt that pass and put the ball on the ground. So those guys both have both those traits.
Thank you.
You know what, if I could, hey, good to see you all. Really, really good to see you all. When I see you guys, that means we're playing football or we're practicing football, and so that's always a good thing. Seeing you goes hand in hand with actually, getting out of the cut-ups and starting to work with our guys, so hand in hand. So with that, good to see you. Any questions?
Alan, what do you like about Dexter and Pickens, two guys that had really high athleticism but maybe didn't pop as much on tape in college?
That's a long list of things. Really, if you say, hey, what don't I like, I could probably answer that question. But the things I do like are, first of all, they're big. Second of all, they're fast. I've been in the room with them for two meetings, and they are super intelligent and attentive. If you look at if someone, someone cares about something, you can tell by the attentiveness in the room. And so, boy, they came in day one. They had their iPads, they had their pencil, they had their notebook, and they were taking. I learned a new word yesterday: copious notes. So they were taking great notes, and so they're quick twitch. So there are a lot of really good things to like about both guys.
Coach, to that point though, Ryan Post did say that during part of the evaluation with those two guys specifically was having to piece together different traits from maybe different film or different drills they did. Is that a greater challenge for a coach to try and assimilate them into their new roles here with the Bears than it would be for a player who had you already seen do exactly what it is you want them to do here?
A little bit, but when you have, when you're, like I said, when you have those traits if they've done it once, then I think between the coach and the player, we say there's a great relationship between both. I do think we can get them to do it again and again and again, and the test will be, can they do it on a consistent basis over the course of time? And everything says, I know we're in the beginning stages of it, but everything says that they can. They have great football character, and the one thing that I do know for sure, that both guys love football. They love football. And so when it's something that you love, the arrow will be pointing up. And so it's how far up, we don't know until they actually do it, but it is pointing up.
Is Javon a better fit for what you guys want to do with them than what Florida asked him to do last year, just kind of with his skill set?
The college game is tough. The quarterbacks are really, they're running around everywhere. And so very few are just sitting back in the pocket. Not that it's the quarterbacks aren't athletic in the NFL, but usually in college they're saying, hey, kind of beat your man, but at the same time, stay at the line of scrimmage, make sure the quarterback's not out of the pocket. So, and then in the run game, it's a little bit different in what they're asking guys to do. So, what we're looking for is traits that a guy may have, and then we'll take those traits and then put them into a category that will be successful for us. So sometimes it's not apples to apples in terms of being able to correlate between exactly what they did in college and then exactly what they'll do in the NFL. But again, we like the things that they can do athletically, and we like the things that they do skill set from an intelligence standpoint.
What is it about your defense that requires both those D tackles to be able to really run? We heard last week, hey, you got to be able to run to play that spot here.
Yeah. Well, with us, if you're a penetrating defense, and without going into just where I'll bore you, we're asking those guys to get upfield, and then there's a part that when a guy doesn't block you, you may be overlapping, and so if you're overlapping and guys are if you're overlapping one of your other defensive linemen and kind of having his back, so to speak, that requires you to go from whatever your spot is from an A gap or B gap, sometimes all the way to outside the hash, and it can be as far as 6-7 yards or to the top of the numbers. So if you're getting out there, that can be 10 or 15 yards that you have to cover to make a tackle. So in our system, that's part of what a guy has to do.
What's your assessment of Tariq Stevenson?
I'm sorry?
What do you like about Tariq Stevenson?
Yeah, he's big. None of those guys are looking me in my eye, so I'm loving that, and I have to look up to him, so that's one thing. He can run, he's intelligent, he has instincts. So in a nutshell, we go, hey, does this guy love football? And then does he have quickness? Does he have instincts? And does he have strike? He has all of those. So we love the things that he can do in that package in terms of body size, hands, arm length.
We haven't talked to you since free agency. Obviously, you guys made a huge addition in Edmonds. What's your vision for who he is as a player and how it fits with what you want to do defensively?
Yeah, we like him for the things that he did when he was with the other team, and so we want him to just do more of that. And then we like the leadership qualities that he has. I don't think you can have too many good leaders when you have good leaders in the building that have a standard, that are accountable from a action standpoint and verbally. On top of he looks like $1 million. So those are all things that will, that we want him to do. Nothing different than anything he did before. So we don't want him to change. We want him to be more of what he is.
Who you envision being your three technique?
Excuse me?
Who you envision being your three technique this year?
Yeah, we have a three technique, right? So that's Justin. Justin will be in there, and but you know what? If every good defensive line in the NFL, well, you know what? Scratch that. Every great defensive line in the NFL, they have a wave of guys that go in and out. Every guy cannot play 60, 65 plays. So we need a good rotation of defensive linemen. So Justin's the three, and then whoever's next will come in and they'll help Justin out. And then we'll have a wave of guys that are in and out. And if we're going to be great, that's what we're going to need to have. And so we're working towards that.
And with the two linebackers, Edmonds and Edwards, I mean, they were both middle linebackers at their last spots. Someone's got to play weak side here. So, like, how does that work in terms of taking two guys who are used to doing one thing somewhere, and then one of them's going to have to alter their role?
Yeah. Well, Edmonds will be inside at the Mike linebacker. TJ will be outside at the will, and it's not something that he hadn't done before, and they'll be fine. It's football. It's not rocket science in terms of what we're asking them to do. Both of them are run and hit guys. Both of them are smart. They're intelligent. They understand scheme. They understand formations. They understand coverage. They understand run fits, and they are instinctive. The number one, and Flus would say this, he said, the number one skill of a backer is to hit the football. So we don't make it any more complicated than that, and both of them do that, and they're just they'll be fine at those two spots.
You know, why is scheme fit so important to this defense? Because, you know, you always hear elite players transcend scheme. That doesn't seem to be the priority here. And it just seems like you really have a certain idea of what you want that fits in this. So what is it about your defense, whoever's defense it is, why is scheme fit so important to the success of the
Yeah, I think when you have a scheme fit, a guy that has a skill set, and then in terms of your scheme and you're asking a guy to do certain things and they match up, that's when a guy can really flourish. So you can be better than maybe what your talent or can allow you to be. So when you match up both, I just think 1 + 1 = 3. And so that's what we're looking for when you match it up. And so and I think we've done that. Ryan Poles has found and Coach Flus has found, great guys that fit our scheme. So we think they'll be even better than maybe what they were before in terms of the production that we'll get off the field.
So what, like Dexter and Pickens, how are they good scheme fit? There's something in particular they do that you noticed, or Poles or whoever, that you noticed that really makes them a good fit for this particular scheme?
They're big, they're athletic, all those things I said. They're big, they're athletic, they're smart, they love ball. Everyone that plays in the NFL doesn't love ball, they do. And they're athletic, they stay on their feet. Here he is now, and he is a big linebacker. That's it. He's a big linebacker, and he has his hand in the dirt. So that works for us.
Thanks, everyone.